The following program is a fan-made review and reaction show. It is in no way affiliated with the movie trivia Schmoedown or Skybound Entertainment.
Hello everybody and welcome back to episode 6 of the Ultimate Schmoedown Show. Big episode we've got today coming for you with a special guest which we'll introduce in a second. But first of all, my name is Bogz, with the boys again after a big week of the Schmoedown. John, we'll start with you. How you doing? How's your week been?
I'm doing great. My week has been pretty good, very busy. We're shooting a morning episode this time, which is fun. I didn't get to do all of my restorative yoga, so if you see me doing some downward dog or something during the middle of the episode, just know that's what's going on. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about the Korruption The Dungeon war that was this past weekend, Bogz.
Yeah, no doubt. Colin, how you been? How you feeling?
Oh, well, I just got back from a rejuvenative retreat to the mountains of North Carolina. Much needed 4th anniversary trip with my girlfriend. So much love to her. And it was great, and managed to get signal in the middle of nowhere. So got to watch the matches with a beautiful backdrop, and now I'm ready to talk about it with some beautiful people. So let's get to it.
No doubt about it. So we are going to introduce our guest now. It's an absolute pleasure to have him on. So as I said before, this is episode 6. So this is, in effect, the return of Korruption. They're back. They're back with a bang this week. Two big wins. We've got one of the hottest players in the game at the moment. Potential triple threat in singles, teams, and in a geekdom. He is one of the best players in the game at the moment. We're introducing the future of the Schmoedown in general. The Cobra himself, Mr. Chance Ellison.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Man. Pleasure to have you here, man. So yeah, huge win on obviously this week. How you feeling? What are your thoughts? What's the reaction been?
Yeah, it was I just love watching that match back with the reaction, because most people had me losing to Parker, as you would. He was absolutely the odds-on favorite in that match. He's looking what he did in his first two. And just knowing what I know about Robert, because I've known, we're good friends. I've known Robert for years.
Okay. Yeah. And
I know how much geek play means to him. So yeah, of course people were going to bet on him against me. But just seeing the whole thing go down again, it's unbelievable, honestly.
It was awesome match, man. It was awesome. Just seeing the whole events unfold, the obviously manager's reaction, how well you played, how well Parker played as well. Man, it was excellent. So obviously we're going to get into that as well, give you a kind of a breakdown of yours and obviously Kalinowski's match. We're also going to, kind of run through a few things with you. Obviously, we've all got questions for you, so we'll come to that in a second. And then we'll discuss the singles tournament as well.
Of course.
So before, obviously, we get into all that, we'll start with your match first. Coming into the Inner Geekdom match, obviously it's a quarterfinal between yourself and Parker. So thoughts going into the match, John, what are you thinking? Obviously we all spoke about it last week, how excited we were for this game. But yeah, what were your thoughts going in? Obviously I know Chance is here, but let's just not pretend he's not here for a second.
Oh, dude, I just thought Chance was the best. No, I mean, I was going into this match sort of with the same energy that I went into watching the Robert Parker versus Ben Goddard match, where I was like, this is not like a one-sided kind of match. This was something where really it could kind of go either way, just depending on, the spin of the wheel, a lot of different factors that could come in where it's just like the day of who's going to take it. So I was really interested to see how it would go. Really, my biggest takeaway from round 1 was just that I love that the city of Philadelphia got some love through that Shazam question. Yeah. Always happy to see it. This was actually, I got to double check. Yeah, this was a pretty geography-heavy match of the Inner Geekdom, which I thought was very interesting, because I think there are 2 different city questions, Philly and then some other city. Who cares? But yeah, it was a good, solid match with exactly one perfect round. from the Cobra himself, this side of the screen. But yeah, man, it was an intense first match, Bogz. First round of the match. That is also the first match. I'm gonna remember how to talk. I promise. I just really got to get my yoga in, I think.
No worries. It's still early for you guys, so you know. It's all right. Colin, thoughts for going into the match?
I was sitting under a waterfall on Friday and just thinking, what could be better? And it was how was Chance like gonna pull this off? I was thinking in my head, the whole Schmoedown world seems to be riding for Robert Parker, and it for me, I consider myself, compared to most, an old schmo's head, and Chance was again, we're pretending you're not here. It was a breakthrough for people that are watching, because you're like, oh my God, that's a guy from his couch who was watching the same stuff I was watching and got out there and did it. And suddenly it felt like everybody forgot about that. Like, I don't know why everybody seemed to forget that a belt was once, hanging over the shoulder, like a champion of the league, and talking about him like he's a rookie. And to me, it was just, everything was building for just Chance to just knock this thing out of the park. And lo and behold, he did. That was just all I needed. And Saturday, man, it's just so great. Everything leading up to it, the build of the Expo, having Danny Fernandez and Hector, give some credibility, add just an extra little bit to it. Having Hector be a former champion, talking about it on stream was fantastic. And then just the match itself, it was a great Schmoedown match. And I'm just ready to get into it, because it was absolutely great, Bogz. I was just fantastic.
Yeah, I just want to say on the back of that, Chance, I don't know if you seen the show last week, or we can maybe clip it out. We did pick you last week, absolutely, because going into the match for me, right? You've obviously basically, like, who is Parker beaten? That's the way I've seen it, right? You've beaten. You've in singles, obviously you've played former champion in Bibiani, former champion in Irwin, former champion in Oyama. Obviously played Oyama again in Geekdom. And in teams, obviously you played Shire Wolves, 2 wins against Founding Fathers. You've been there, done that, got the CV, been through the gauntlet. So for me going in, I thought, okay, surely, why is everyone picking against Chance, right? He's been there, done it. Former champion as well. So, going into obviously the match, Chance, what were your thoughts? Obviously you saw the whole kind of, the kind of online reaction. Going in, what were your thoughts?
When I first saw the bracket, when I saw it in the same quad as Parker, I'm just like, okay, this was not a coincidence. This is definitely done on purpose. Like, all the fan leaguers on one corner, that's not a coincidence. I know Christian did that on purpose, because he loves his rivalries. So I'm just like, okay, this is what I'm facing against. And I feel like I'm in my head, I'm just like, okay, if Parker's gonna lose, okay, there's 2 people who can be Parker. Mike in the finals, or I can take him out right now. So I'm just like, okay, so what? So it'd be so cool if I could take him out right now. And in my head, I'm just like, okay, if I can, the second I can get the jump on him, that's my signal. I turn on the jets and go. First round, that people know that's where I do my best work. I'm just like, okay, going in, I thought, okay, I'm probably gonna have to throw 11 for 11, because he does. He's done it twice. So I can't slip up. I got my mentality going this one. I cannot slip up, because Parker's like me. You give him an inch, he'll take a mile.
Yeah. And I love I don't know if anyone noticed, but like the Zen stance that you had, kind of concentrate as much as you can. I love that, man. Don't break that. Right. That was cool, man. John, what are your thoughts on round 1?
Yeah, it was a great round, with only one question getting missed by Robert Parker, and that being
2.
the mask. You're right. I read incorrectly. It's reading and talking. It's going real rough on my end, Bogz, but he missed the mask quote, and he missed the Joker burning money death question. Those are the 2 that he missed. And then Chance got all of them correct, as well as the bonus points question. So it was 11 and 8 coming out of that first round. And it's one of those things where, you know, we talk about it a lot on this show. I know a lot of folks talk about it, but it's just that question of who blinks first. You know, which person is the first to slip up, and will that be the thing that decides the match? And so, you know, coming out of that round one, it was like, all right, that might be the one moment of momentum where it just switches one way or the other, finally going down one path, and it was going down the Chance path, Bogz.
Yeah, you know when Parker missed the first Batman question, Chance, your reaction after the match, that was my reaction when he missed that question. I was like, oh, well, what's going on here? It's, obviously, we knew you were obviously coming on, and I thought, oh, come on. For him to miss and, that kind of edge and that advantage for you, it was definitely a big shot. Colin, thoughts on round one?
I thought the questions were, it was quality round one, and then it had me feeling at the end, like the vibe, it felt like the Star Wars tournament matches. It had that, you better not mess up, because when you do, you're gonna lose. That's what it is. That's where we're at right now with where the world is. These players, Chance, I know you've had more time on your hands. We all have. And wow, like, you get to sit there, watch your favorite movies, learn more about your favorite movies. Like it's inspiring. It has to be. And to have all this time, we're getting the best out of the best of these competitors. Like every single week, it's the best. Like even the matches where somebody loses by 8 points, it still feels like those players now know more than 2 years ago. Because the player that lost by 8 this year is winning 2 years ago. Easy. Because the studying, it's just been taken up a notch. And it's clear, Chance, because your perfect round ones are, it's an art form at this point, because it's part of your game. It's part of your game. Like if you get off to that start, you're setting the tone. It's like getting out there and scoring a touchdown on the first drive. If you score a touchdown on the first drive as opposed to scoring a field goal, it's a big difference in the game. It's 4 points. But you getting out there, scoring that 11 points, setting it was huge. And it just, like I was talking before you joined our call earlier, it made it feel like round one, you just carried the rest of the way. It just kept building and building and building up, and he couldn't catch you. Like, even if he was perfect, you were perfect. You already were. So he had to be perfecter than you already were. And it just wasn't happening. And you just had, your number was, you called your own number, you picked up, and you ran with it. And I'm just ecstatic for you. And I can't wait for the next round, because this is where I just think the questions that are going to be flying are going to be some of the toughest Inner Geekdom questions we've had yet. And I can't wait to see what you guys are going to do. So, Chance, when you're thinking at this point, it's the end of round one, are you going in, like, do you just want to, is there a category you're trying to nail? Is there, what are you thinking about going into round two? Like, what do I need to do here?
Yeah. So, like you said, first of all, it's crazy. First of all, after round one, it's crazy thing. I'm like, oh God, I'm up 3 points against Robert. Like, I'm a player. I believe momentum. So I like to go first if I can. If I'm doing really well. It's like back to football analogies. Like say you're inside 2 minutes and you're driving. Like you're always fuck. Oh, did you lose me?
Yeah, you're back. You're good.
Yes,
cool.
like I was saying, it's like if you're inside 2 minutes and you're driving to score the winning touchdown. Like you're inside 2 minutes, you want to hurry up offense because you don't want to stop.
Right.
So yeah, it was a thing where I wanted to go first because with Inner Geekdom especially, there's more categories I'm okay with on the wheel than I'm scared of. Like the thing is, like I know if I hit my Middle Earth with Robert, I'm in trouble because I know how much he loves that franchise. Mm-hmm. But I mean, statistically, there's like a very low chance of me hitting that on the wheel. So I'm perfectly okay going first.
Yeah, man. It was so especially when you seen Shannon Barney, how happy she was, like celebrating and stuff. So did you feel pressure going into round two, or were you just thinking, okay, let me keep the lead, or were you kind of concerned, or kind of what were your kind of initial thoughts before, as well? Obviously, sticking on DCEU.
It was a bit of like, let me keep the lead. And when it came to DCEU, like there are certain categories where there's still a few categories where I've seen all of this. I've seen them all.
Yeah, less
and
movies.
that was one of the ones where, okay, it's smaller. I don't think it's been played too much. And if I spin something like Star Trek or Middle Earth, I will probably do worse than I do with this. So, yeah, I decided to keep it.
Yeah, man, play Lights Out. John, what are your thoughts on round 2?
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things I thought about in round 2 is obviously another guy that we're going to be talking about later, Mike Kalinowski, also a big fan of the DC universe. So when I saw Chance spinning DCEU and him sticking with it, like, obviously, I don't want to get too inside baseball and start grilling you about like the secret corruption study tactics. But it was one of those things where I was like, hey, listen, corruption is kind of the rogues gallery of the Schmoedown. Is that just like something that you, Mike, and Shannon are just like kind of full all chips in on? Because I know you were saying that you are also just generally a fan of those movies. So is it just another thing that you study harder?
No. Don't get it twisted. I'm not. Despite how I did round 2, I'm not a fan of the DCEU. I've seen them all. I'm not a fan. They made a grand total of 2 good movies,
Which
2
are
okay movies, and then the 2 good ones are Shazam and Wonder Woman. Those 2.
you don't like Man of Steel, surely?
No,
Oh,
I do not like Man of
that's
Steel.
my favorite. That was my favorite out of them.
I think it's an age thing. I think that's an age thing. And I mean, Bogz, you don't crack. You're in your 30s. You don't crack, even though you don't look it.
You're in your 30s.
They say it on camera.
But you don't crack. What do you mean?
Yeah, I know, but they don't need to know
You're
that,
not
Colin.
60.
Oh, man,
What are you
don't spoil
talking
the
about?
illusion, man.
What
That's the
what
illusion.
illusion are you talking about? But I find,
Unprofessionals here, Chance. Sorry, man. Sorry, man. We're trying to keep the illusion of being a youngster here.
I get it. I've never had the luxury to keep my age secret because it's always been like massively advertised in the Schmoedown. But yeah, no, it's just one where I felt like, they're 8 movies. I'd seen them all fairly recently, so I was just like, okay, I think I said in the match, I probably get a good grasp on whatever they ask me. Didn't see what they were asking. The questions I didn't see coming, like at all. But that's how the game goes. That's the risk you run when you take a category that's like 8 movies deep.
Yeah, well, and I'll say shout outs to you, man. You only not even missed a question. You just had to go multiple choice on one, which again, speaking of that geography, just the city that was the setting of the Suicide Squad, which is like, that's one of those things where it's fully like, of course, A, you got the question right, but B, there's no shame in going multiple choice on that like deep of a cut. You know what I mean? Like just fully like surface level kind of details.
The funny thing is that was the thing I went over with Mike in one of our previous sessions. And I couldn't pull it. I'm just like, oh, like crap. I know we went over this, but I cannot remember offhand. Like I know when I hear it.
And it's fictional, right? It's a fictional city. So
yes, Midway City is not
right. Which, if you know, like it's like if you're watching The Dark Knight, you're like, it's not Chicago, but it is Chicago.
Yeah,
but
it's not Chicago, but it definitely is.
When
Chicago.
they do every exterior shot of a building, you're like, it's not Chicago, it's not Chicago, and then this one's like, they shot it in Detroit. It's like, it's not Detroit. It's not Detroit. What city is it? And of course, you're thinking, are you thinking the fictional cities at that point? So it's like Star City, all the other ones. But then of course,
I'm like Star City, Capital City. It's not either of those. It's like a weird one.
Who even protects Midway City? Does anybody know? Like,
Midway City. There's some stuff with. Nightwing does some stuff in there.
Yeah, right. See, it's not even like, the Flash is in Star City. There's other stuff to go off on. That's a hard.
The Flash is in Central City, not
Central City. Central City. Star Labs, Central City. Arrow is Star City. There we go. I failed this podcast, and I apologize.
So you're with the champs, so you got to get it right, Colin. If you're gonna drop the name. Chance, what did you think about how Robert played in the second round?
He did as well. He did what he needed to do because he needed a big round. He got it. Wizarding World, and those were not easy questions.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I would have gotten multiple on like two or three of those.
Okay.
Just because, like, first of all, a lot of Goblet of Fire. I noticed people point out to me in this match, a lot of Goblet of Fire.
Yeah.
There were like 5 of like the 7 Wizarding World questions asked in that match. 5 were from the same movie. I'm like, that's just weird. But yeah, no, he needed a big round. I knew that like if he gets something he's like remotely comfortable with, he's gonna do it. He's gonna catch up. So I wasn't getting too comfy with my 28 lead.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like he's gonna cut that real quick.
Yeah, exactly. So then going into round 3, Colin, you want to take us through it at the start?
I mean, I thought round 3 had some of the most like topsy-turvy questions. It felt like they might have gotten like the like what score they were in wrong. I felt like your 3 was a 2, possibly for some, just in that like style, and then some of Robert's questions felt like they were all 5s, and then or was it one of them? One of them felt like it was a little out of place, like it was
his 3.
Yeah, the 3
Yeah.
I was sitting there like,
Back to the
hold
Future.
up now. Yeah, that was a very, very deep cut. But yours, your winning question, your Yule Ball question, I actually had what I thought would have been a more interesting version of that question. Do you know the name of the band that was playing at the Yule Ball?
That's a good one. I don't know actually. That's a good one.
The Weird Sisters.
The Weird. I think I might have that written down.
That's a good
Write it down, just in case.
And remember,
if I don't, I'll write that down.
Because Goblet of Fire is on the brain now. I felt like that's but for me, round 3 was just he set you up and you knocked him down, and that's what you got to do. And if you're given those level of questions, Chance, you're gonna knock him down, man. And you know that, and it's great watching you play and see it, and you're like, oh, I know it. I love that. Like seeing somebody know something in this league, it's great because you're, and especially with you or like when I know it too, it's like, oh yes, just as nerdy as we are, like, and you can pull it out. It's fantastic. But I loved Robert's like his determination to not give up, because he wasn't going to back down, and he talked it all week. And especially with Kaiser at his back, he's not gonna, he's never gonna back down, because even if he wants to, Kaiser will just keep pushing him forward. And you got it. This is not the last we're going to see of him. And like, in terms of IG, he's terrifying. And it's kind of when he's on a roll and he's sitting there playing with his suit, it's got shades of early you, Chance, when you would come in and knock down people that have thousands of followers on Twitter or whatever, and then this kid comes in from the fan leagues and starts messing everything up. Does that ever get too big? Does the moment ever feel like you're does it ever feel too big? Like, that's probably better.
For me, no. I've never felt like the pressure was just like so high that I couldn't perform. I mean, I'm not going to say I haven't. I've underperformed in certain cases, but it's never because of pressure. It just comes down to knowledge for me. Like, and it doesn't matter where I'm recording. It doesn't matter if it's studio, live event, this. For me, it always comes down to knowledge. And I feel like with Parker, given that he lost, he's gonna be a much more dangerous opponent his next time around. Like I'll call it right now. I think whoever gets next, he's gonna knock out. Like whether it's TKO or knockout, I will predict he will knock out his next opponent.
Yeah, he's top draw, man. He's top draw. He's top quality. It's just obviously you're a bit more seasoned than him, I personally think. I want to know as well, Chance, did you actually know the Back to the Future one?
I did not. And the funny thing was, I watched those movies like 1 or 2 days before I recorded that match, and I wrote down a bunch of stuff about this movie. But that was just something I failed to write, and it was a weird thing because it was just like that seemed. I think at the time I was just like, yeah, that seems obvious enough that I won't forget it, and I forgot it.
It seems like something that you could guess in hindsight.
Yeah,
because he has something that he throws, and maybe frisbee. But
I'm like, maybe I might have gotten there, but maybe not. I'm not sure.
Yeah. What are your overall thoughts on the match, John?
Yeah, I mean, I first off definitely agree with Chance about how Robert is gonna only come back stronger after this. It's like I always say with Kevin Smets. The thing that made him so great was not the fact that he was training so much coming into it. It's the fact that he lost to Mike and then came back stronger. Like, it's all about how you take your first loss and then come back from it. Obviously, Smets played well against David Moore, Jay Washington, and Hector Navarro. But, that was kind of some rustier players, folks that hadn't been in Inner Geekdom either in years or at all in Moore's case. But then when he faced Mike, who's one of the best, took that loss and then came back afterwards and was able to then beat Mike to get the belt. Like, I think it's one of those testaments of just like, the experience in the league. And that's also why I think Chance was able to take this match. Like, definitely Robert Parker is no slouch when it comes to inner geekdom knowledge. Like, he clearly knows his stuff. We all think he's, definitely going to be coming back from this and doing well. But it's about just the experience of being in the ring, the experience of getting into a match where things don't go your way, where that first bit of momentum, like we talked about, how Chance got momentum in the first round and was able to kind of just ride that to the victory. It's about having those sorts of experiences just as much as it is being able to go knockout for knockout in like the fan leagues and then in your first couple matches. So, I mean, it was, definitely a testament to how much Parker knows, but also a testament to how much Chance has been grinding and getting ready for inner geekdom. Because like, other than, was this your second time, I guess, against Paul Oyama playing inner geekdom after that fatal 5-way?
Right. Yeah, that was my second match.
Yeah, which incredible. The fact that these were your second and third matches ever in this whole division, like that's a testament to how just great you played, man. I know you were also saying that it often comes down to knowledge, but I also was wondering how much because I know you oftentimes in your matches you wear kind of the sunglasses and the Korruption T-shirt, particularly kind of like professional poker player vibes from you, and then of course Robert Parker, who apparently owns just 6 or 7 versions of the same suit, which is that we could get into that. But I wonder how much.
One for every day of the week. One for every day of the week.
Bizarre. So I was wondering, how much do you think like the clothing that you wear, like suiting up for battle, like do you think that plays into it at all as far as doing well?
I mean, I do believe in I do believe in a certain thing, a luck. I do believe in some kind of superstition, which is why I generally wear the same things in every match, because if I win something, I don't like to change things. So yeah, I do feel like that. Sometimes you have a bit of mojo that you need to have on you at all times. Like I have mine. Robert has every single player has theirs. But yeah, I always think first and foremost, it's always going to come down to what you know, especially in a league like this where you have very defined parameters and a good list of movies that you will get asked questions from. You need to know if you want to. You need to know all of these, and know them to the best of your ability. You're not going to know all of them like front to back, as much as Smets may try. But you need to know all of them to the best of your ability. You need to know what's going to get asked from any movie at any time.
Absolutely, and I think that. Oh, you go ahead, Bogz. I was just going to say the biggest thing that we all have learned from this match is the one thing you got to know is the city of Philadelphia, baby. That's how you're going to get your Shazam questions right. It's how you're going to get everything right. It's just channel the city of brotherly love. Back to you, Bogz.
He didn't miss that question. We both got it.
That's right. And God bless you.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a shame that we won't see Parker for a while, potentially.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chancellor.
No, I'm saying you're right. It's a shame that his season got cut so short, especially considering how high a draft pick, which he was going to be either way. Because if Kaiser didn't pick him up, we were going to pick him up. That's what we wanted to do. But Kaiser robbed us of that, and so I mean, you struck first. We had to finish it. That's how it goes.
No doubt, man. No doubt. So, I do. Obviously, I love the NWA's kind of outfit that you've got. It's all part of the outfit. It's all part of the mindset. I think you're downplaying yourself a little bit where it's just the questions. It's not just the questions, because you've shown in big match after big match after title match that you've got the composure and the mindset and the recall.
That too.
Yeah, and you don't get rattled. You've shown, even when, obviously we'll come to the questions a bit later, but when people shouting from the crowd to you, overrated, you're still holding it down. You're still composed. The glasses probably helps, like not letting everyone see kind of where you're at.
That does. I also grew up in a sports background. I played varsity football in high school, and that was in Texas too, where that's like the thing. So I'm used to like crowds just shouting at me, just all kinds of nonsense, and it's the thing. So it's the thing coming in this that it's never going to bother me.
Yeah. Awesome.
So,
awesome.
Yeah, I was already for it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell you've been through that kind of experience because it's shown. Because you wouldn't be a champ otherwise. You have people that kind of miss or make mistakes or get rattled. Obviously, we've not seen that from you. So yeah, big respect. So anyway, let's go on to your teammates match, the part 2 of the dungeon against Korruption. Going into the match, Colin, what were your thoughts kind of on Kalinowski against Zipper first?
All right, so we're gonna have to pretend like Chance isn't here. Like, look, like, okay, I had like major Z1000 vibes going into this match. I don't know why. I couldn't explain it. I was I just felt you make a pick in the NCAA tournament sometimes, right? Sometimes Davidson beats Georgetown, right?
That's true. That's very true.
Right. So this was kind of my like, if there was a time for KO to lose, it felt like this was a setup game. It felt like one of those games where it felt like I don't know why, but that's just the vibe I got.
Okay,
and
fair enough,
I
fair
was
enough.
wrong. And I'm happy that I'm wrong because I loved watching what I watched. And my vibe of it was that Mike is so composed, and there is something that is lost on folks, that the man is a damn good actor, and he will mess with you in ways that will rattle you. And you could tell he got to Eric multiple times in those first 2 rounds that he did not recover from the head games. And when you can bring head games into the Schmoedown, and Mike learned it best with the whole pudding situation, and then coming back with like this whole new thing, him and Shannon absolutely crushing it with the promos at home. Like the whole vibe that they bring over the last 4 months has just been sick. But still, I thought that all of that was built up for Eric to come in and at least try to, make some noise. And he tried, but the head games, Bog. It was the head games.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to our Twitter poll as well that we put out, which Christian retweeted. So shout out for that, Christian. Actually, it was 82% in favor of Kalinowski. So the public weren't on your side there, Colin, unfortunately. But yeah, 82%. Oh, by the way, for you as well, Chance, we put a poll out and it was 52% for you going into obviously the match. So the public did kind of back your last second there. John, thoughts on round 1, please, of Kalinowski and Zipper?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it was close again, kind of feeding off what Colin was saying. I definitely thought we were going to see a polished Zipper. One of the reasons why I pushed back a lot when we talked about the Eric Zipper versus Emily Rose Jacobson match, when a lot of people were really going way too hard on Emily, was that I thought it not only undervalued Emily as a player, but also undervalued Eric, who did have a really solid performance in that match. And like the reason that he was able to get that TKO was because he was really polished. I can't say that I thought the same way as Colin that Eric was going to win it. I did not. But I definitely thought that this was going to be a tighter race than I think some people were giving Eric credit for. And that was the case. There were no perfect round ones, in this match. Both Mike and Zipper missed a question. But Eric missed 2 and Mike only missed 1. And it's that exact same thing that we were talking about with Chance versus Robert, which is that first momentum shift where it's just who goes up first. And in this case, it was Mike. Nobody got the Wonder Woman Unbreakable line, which I didn't either. So
my girlfriend did. She was so proud. She was like, unbreakable. It's great.
But I definitely agree with Chance that it's one of the only 2 good DCEU movies. But that's neither here nor there.
To quote the movie, it's about average, right? Isn't that what he says? It's average size.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's average. It's average.
I mean, really, the biggest thing about this round 1 is that not enough people watched The Green Hornet, which A, I completely understand. But B, one of the weirdest facts about me is that I own the film Green Hornet. And so every time I open up iTunes, it's just sitting there staring me down. So I guess I just have it more on the brain than other folks from just when I was 12 years old and thought that movie was the best. But yeah, this was a tight round 1, Bogz. Like it was not like a wipeout win for Mike, but it was definitely Mike still just proving why he's a multiple belted inner geekdom player.
Yeah, he's proven his worth here. Like he's coming into his element more and more with the promos, with the smack talk. So yeah, it was wicked to see. Chance, I would like to know as well, obviously your thoughts on round one, but where are you in this match? Like, are you watching kind of just off screen, or is Shannon texting the results, or what's going on?
I'm not allowed to be in watching off screen, so
okay.
I found out the results as soon as it was over because Shannon texted me about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then after it comes out, I go back and watch it, see how the whole thing went down, which is what I've been doing for all these tournament matches because I've been able to find out the results for most of them as soon as they happen.
You can't wait either.
Yeah, no, I like to know what I'm up against going forward. So yeah, it was a thing where I knew Mike won, but I didn't know the specifics of it, except for a few key things, like in round one, that Lord of the Rings Ian Holm question. That was the thing we went over the night before, which is crazy when that happened. And Michael admitted just like, yeah, I wouldn't have had that if it wasn't for our study sessions.
Well, there you go. Well, he always comments about you as well. Whenever he's kind of on his studying, he always says, you know, thanks to you, or gives credit to you, or often calls you even the better player. So yeah, that's big, obviously compliments coming from Mike, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, on to round two. Colin, what are your thoughts on round two?
Well, I thought round two was
winning again.
Right, and it just kind of my story for this match is that I felt like Eric was on his heels the entire week, like since he won his match, and since it was going up, and since he found out he was going up against Mike, he has been on his heels the entire time. Mike has not let up. We got a saying, it's all gas, no brakes. And Mike was relentless, and it worked. And it got to him, and he never fully recovered from the mind games of round one. But in round two, you felt that Kalinowski is proving again and again and again, proving me wrong, my thoughts this week. He is like, it's perennial, like every single time Mike's coming up, it's a win. It feels like that every single time now that he's walking up, he's not going to lose it. And that's why this collision course that we are currently on right now is so exciting. That in the level that we're getting to right now is so exciting because no one seems to want to miss. And Chance, I'll throw this at you. Like, who cracks first in a training session between you and Mike?
Who breaks first?
Who breaks first?
Oh, it's so hard to remember, but like usually I break first because we'll get a question about like some weird movie like The Shadow or The Phantom that Mike knows really well.
Yeah.
That I don't like. He has an unnatural love for The Phantom, and I've never understood.
So that wasn't BS yesterday. It is his favorite comic book movie of all time.
It's not okay. I call BS on that. Because
I think he called it on himself too, because he was like, well, maybe it's not my favorite.
As soon as I heard that, I'm just like, no, there's no way. Like, no, there's absolutely no way that is your favorite comic movie. It's one of his favorites. He has an unnatural love for The Phantom. That's not a lie.
I mean, listen, I can't talk any smack about that because I own the Green Hornet. I don't know. I guess Kalinowski is just a real Treat Williams stan, I guess.
Well, you also understand, like, Mike is like of the generation where the 90s like comic graphic novel movie. That's what they had.
Right.
So of course, if you grow up with those movies like that, you're like, I had those. Like I love Space Jam because I grew up watching that movie.
Cool Runnings. I have an uncanny love for Cool Runnings.
Cool Runnings is awesome. But yeah, like we all have our. It's a generational thing because yeah, like someone of a younger persuasion could watch the fan and be like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
You could tell you kind of felt that way in your match too. Parker gets the mask question and it just goes completely over his head, mainly because I don't know if he was alive when the movie came out. And that's one of those things.
We were not.
Right. And that's like, but that is something that I don't think gets enough, talk about when it comes to, that knowledge where, like you mentioned, that generation, that was their movies. It was The Mask. It was 89 Batman.
Yeah. And same thing with like Back to the Future. Like there are like a
Right.
ton of people who are older than us
Right.
who got that frisbee no problem.
Yeah.
Right. They're like,
Because
what do you mean? Like yelling at the TV. They're like, what do you mean? It's a frisbee.
Yeah, but because they grew up with those movies. They watch them constantly. And for people like me or Parker, who had to discover Back to the Future when we were, a little older, it's not something that clicks like that for us. Only reason I got the Mask question was because they said 94 comic movie. If they didn't give me that, I don't think I would have nailed it. Because they said 94 comic movie, and it's like, okay, so they said I'm not kids, either the Mask or the Crow.
And it's not the Crow.
And that sounds way too cartoony for the Crow, so it's got to be the Mask. But yeah, it's sometimes that generational thing, it helps.
Yeah, no doubt. Like the familiarity that you have with it, watching it over and over, spending that time, decades with a certain movie, you're gonna have, better recalls on it. There's like a reason in the singles why Rocha, Morrill, Irwin, Bibiani, these guys of that generation are there or at the top. Obviously, you guys are coming on the heels, but there's a reason for that.
McWeeny loves his 80s, right? Like, I mean,
he does.
Right? Like that's your wheelhouse, and if you stick to it, and it's crazy in singles. It's like the millennial generation. It's like, don't mess with us in Pixar. It's like, don't even try and play. No. It's like don't because
especially Chance. Yeah, it's one of your.
I am the best Pixar player in the game. Don't mess with me on
it. Watch out, John. Final thoughts on round 3.
Oh, on round 3. I mean, it's one of those things again where Zipper was on one. You know what I mean? Obviously, he didn't win the match. He wasn't able to answer that brutal 5-pointer. Like, even as a fan of Harry Potter, I was definitely trying to go in my head where I was like, who would say that? That sounds like a Dumbledore thing to say.
I thought it was Aberforth.
I would not be able to get...
I said Aberforth. I was like, I'm pulling some deep cut. I thought it was from the one conversation they had with his brother, and I was just like, it's such a
which is funny you said it, because I've screwed that question. I knew the question because I've screwed up so many times in study sessions. I always say Dumbledore, but I'm like, okay, no, it's not. It's Lupin. I forget when he says it. I think it's like Deathly Hallows Part 2 or 1.
I believe it's when he's looking. I believe it's like when they've all assembled at Hogwarts. Like once the Order shows up.
Oh, is it?
It's because I don't think it's in 3. Because it's not in 3. He's not in 4.
It wouldn't make any sense in 3 because Voldemort plays the least amount in.
Right. It's right. Has nothing to do with it, and that's right. That is such a hard pull, and I'm a big Potterhead, and that made my scar hurt. Like I couldn't figure it out.
Well, and that kind of cuts at one of the things I've been talking about a little bit. Is just like, it's the best players in this league are the folks that get stuff wrong and then come back from that. So like, Chance talking about how like that's a question you had messed up multiple times, and that's kind of like the reason you would be able to get it. If you look at a player like Mike, like, one of my all-time favorite matches of Mike's is when Rachel Cushing won the belt off of him. I think it was at a throwdown event. Where it's like he played a perfect game. And it was just that one like sudden death question of Ning Ko versus Ning Ka, where it's just like he's been in those situations where he pitches perfect games, still loses, and that's kind of what motivates him to go even further and be able to come back stronger. And I think this is that kind of an instance for Eric. This is the most polished we've ever seen Eric as an Inner Geekdom player. Like, he wasn't able to get the win, but like he got his 2 and his 3 and just wasn't able to hit that very hard 5-pointer. Like, clearly his studying with Kevin and with Robert has paid off. He was not a slouch in this game, but he has not been the polished and still lost kind of player that has gone in those matches like Mike. And Mike has. And that's what gave Mike the edge. That's why Mike was able to get away. As Shannon and Mike talked about, he didn't have to answer his 5. He just answered Eric's. But it's just that kind of a thing where it's like, again, like we were saying with Robert, Eric is no slouch. He played a great game, but Kalinowski is just that upper echelon of player. And that was my thought on it, man, is that Eric played a good game, but you just can't mess with Mike, Bogz. You can't do it.
No, I'd say that's what I said at the start. Him and Chance, pound for pound, we're talking. These guys, along with Barbarian, to be fair, are 3. They could potentially be 3 belt champions this year. And, you know, they're the only guys in the game at that level. As well, it's just going far, kind of together. Well, in fact, Chance, how do you think Mike played overall? You think, because I personally think he's got another gear to how he played against Zipper. What were your overall thoughts on how Mike played?
Oh yeah, he definitely stepped it up between week 1 and week 2 because that DC round was fantastic. I think
Lights up.
Ironic, we both got divisions of DC in the same week. But yeah, no, he played a great match. I feel like we're getting back to 2018 Mike Janowski from that tournament. Because like he's been very public. He wanted to step back. He wanted to focus. He wanted to focus on our team's play. He wanted to focus on other things that weren't game, which is why I didn't take that number 1 contender with Andrew. But yeah, coming to this tournament, we both knew we needed to step up, and I think we have for the most part.
No doubt. And it's so much good momentum going into your team's match. You know, You're playing win after win. Rocha and Moore are not playing. Oh, well, obviously Rocha's playing Irwin, but how many matches you're going to have against tough opposition going in? So yeah, it's definitely credit to both you guys. Now, before we get into the singles bracket, of course, we just want to run through some questions with you. I know I've obviously got some. Colin, you want to go first?
Bogz, you go ahead, man. I want to hear from you, bud.
Okay, I want to know something personally, a couple of things, 2 personal questions, if you don't mind. First of all, is Chance actually your real name?
Oh, looks like we lost him for a second. We'll get him back. Sorry. It's all right.
No, I was just going to say a couple of personal questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's funny that I got that question so many times. Yes, my that is my full, my real legal given name. It's on my birth certificate and everything.
No, it's cool, man. I don't know where it's come from exactly, but yeah, it's cool. And so, are you mixed race, Chance?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
I'm Black and Latino.
Oh, no way, you're Latino as well. Okay, I didn't know that. I could see you were mixed something, but I didn't know what Latino. Whereabouts?
I'm Panamanian and Colombian. The funny thing is, like, I found that, especially doing this, I fall in that same category with like Pete Davidson or The Rock, where it's just like, people can't lock me down.
No.
Which I think is, I think it's funny, and I abuse that, honestly.
Why not? It's because you got the glasses on as well, and plus your hair's covered, so it's quite hard to figure out. Especially being, a personal calling myself, I'm trying to kind of pick up a few things. Yeah. So as well, I just wanted to thought, again, one last personal question, but obviously the way you've conducted yourself throughout your journey, like I said, really composed, really polite, really respectful, even when people in your face trying to kind of throw you off your game. I can kind of tell, obviously you being kind of a youngster in the game as well, I can tell that you've kind of had a good upbringing with this, because you're not really rude, or you're not really kind of disrespectful to, like you're respectful in the game, but not kind of, you don't go personal with anyone else. You kind of tell you've had a good upbringing, being a young man and stuff. And I just want to know, what are your kind of family's kind of thoughts about the Schmoedown? Do they come watch your live matches? What are their kind of
they have not come to see me at a live match yet. Hopefully when we start doing live events, they'll come to listen to me play at some point. But yeah, everyone, my family's been really supportive of this. My mom was watching. It's always funny. She's always trying to get me to like spoil matches, because I always like to make her wait for it. And yeah, my dad also is really supportive. He's always really supportive. He loves like I was saying, like my dad, as soon as he saw my first match, he was hooked. He was like, "Oh yeah, this is great. I love it." Because like we grew up watching like old school wrestling, and it's funny. We grew up watching wrestling. We used to like recreate the moves. As a result, I lost my 2 front teeth because of it.
Oh no way!
And they were replacements. They were replacements, so it was okay. But I was like, I just got these replaced, and now I knocked them out again because me and my dad are messing around. But yeah, no, everyone in my family has been like really, really supportive of this thing I do.
So who's kind of Latino? Your mom or your dad?
My mom.
Oh, okay. And do you speak kind of Spanish or anything?
Yeah, I'm not great at it. I'm like conversational, but I'm not as good as I used to be, just because I don't use it very often.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can get by.
No, of course, man. It's just that obviously the fans will be kind of wanting this as well. You know, obviously I'm from the UK, so
Right.
a lot of people in the UK, you know, there's a big UK kind of Schmoedown group as well, which this will be put in. So
noticed.
they've all kind of asking you, kind of asking me to ask you these certain questions. So,
Right, of course.
yeah, man, thanks for that. Just anyone else, John? Before I go ahead.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I got some more kind of game-specific questions. The first of which is obviously, since playing in the Schmoedown, you've been one of the players who has always been playing with a manager. Like, from the moment you stepped into the Schmoedown, you were a part of the Korruption faction. Right. So I was kind of curious, like, what your perspective has been as someone who started with a manager, now in a changed game where everyone's got a manager and there's a lot more focus put on the, like, faction standings. How's that been?
It's been interesting because the managers used to be like a mouthpiece for you, which is why I loved working with Ken. Like Ken was great when managers, when all they had to do was just, you know, talk for you. But the game has changed to the point where managers, you can't just do that anymore. You're essentially a coach at this point, or you're like a manager in baseball. Like, you're making sure, you know, your players are they're up to speed on everything. And that's why I love working with Shannon now, because like I honestly I'm not sure I'd be as good right now if Ken was still managing me, just because he's great, but he'll admit it, he's not really invested in the game as much as most managers. But she's incredibly invested. Like we're always talking strategy. She's always a lot of one-on-one talk between the two of us, and she's always like checking in on all our players, making sure, you know, everyone's good, everyone's like ready for what they have to do, you know, making decisions, making strengths, you know, helping strategize. I really admire how much she's taken to this manager position.
Yeah, and kind of again with that, on top of, you know, kind of having this more one-on-one manager/coach dynamic, you are now a danger in 3 different divisions. Oh, yeah. So I was kind of curious, like, how that process has been. Obviously, you've had Mike, who's like, you know, Mikey 3 belts from last year. Obviously, that was a huge thing that he focused on. So what's it been like for you to try and expand and really nail down all 3?
I mean, you know, originally when it was pitched to me of going to IG, it was before COVID hit. Originally, I was supposed to just take like some low-level matches, which is what I knew I could beat any like mid to low tier player in IG. When I found out about this tournament, it was just like, okay, so I have to become like a legitimate threat in this league, which I know I could do because I think I said it before. Like I took that 4-way match on 3 days' notice, and I was still able to come in and nearly win that. So I'm just like, okay, so I can do this. I just got to go back and actually watch these movies and like study them and you know, get familiar, which I did do. So yeah, the thing where like I feel like, you know, I feel like I could be a threat in 3 leagues, and I would love to be a threat in 3 leagues, because how many players really have that distinction? It's like maybe like a handful.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
you,
maybe
Paul, Mike,
Barbarian.
I hate to do it. This is not a slight or a pick to show my hand, but I think Alex Damon, I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, and it's a mindset. That's my argument for Alex, is that if he brings the level of training and giving a damn to anything that he gives about Star Wars, it's over.
I would like, but it's also not as easy with regular.
Of course. It's a more finite. It's finite, and
it's more
everything
finite.
else is more expansive. Right. Of course.
Yeah. I actually would love to see Damon give teams a shot. I also like to see Robert give teams a shot, because honestly, he played some like regular matches in the fan leagues, and he's good. He honestly could probably jump in, win a few single matches, win a teams match.
Anyone in the dungeon that you would think would be a good pairing for him?
It's tough, because look, most people in the dungeon are already taken.
Right.
Maybe Gallegos, if he's good.
Yeah. That's the thing that we found about. That's the thing that we found about teams, at least for the last couple of years, is that there has to be a bunch of overlap in your knowledge, but it's just those little things where one knows more about another and one knows more, that makes the perfect teams. That Bibiani and, you know, this apparently the kid. I mean, I don't know what's going on with that match, you know, the matchup of the two of them, but it's working. And it's a chemical equation that I don't understand, but it works and it makes sense and it comes out right. And that's the same with you and Mike. You both seem like, you know, like that's what we were talking about, breaking first. I think it's probably the same in singles. And then you two just know so much. And like you keep saying, it's about the knowledge. And that's what I respect so much about you guys, is how much you care about the knowledge, just knowing it. Because when you know it, you know it. Right. No moment's too big. No, and when you know something, you know it. And it's that composure that we keep talking about. And so this would be my question to you. When did you find the Schmoedown? What was your first experience with it?
So I talked about this on shows before, but so I'll be brief. But I remember it because I was a big fan of Jamie Johns, and I found Christian and Mark. And the podcast, I remember hearing about like the Ultimate Schmoedown tournament's going to start. It was 2015, so it was the first teams tournament. So I'm like, what is the Schmoedown? So I found a playlist of all the previous matches. I binged that entire thing in a day. I was hooked, and I've been watching ever since.
Excellent, man. Well, I know you had briefly brought up Gallegos, and that kind of makes me want to talk a little bit about the singles tournament with you. Because not only are you and Mike going to be in this tournament as well, which, by the way, I'm just going to go ahead and put you guys as going very far in that tournament, because clearly it's a mistake to bet against you in a tournament, either of you. But you also now have two fan leaguers, Adam Collins and Marisol McKee, joining you guys. And so obviously, you know, you are kind of the biggest and first and arguably best example of someone coming up into the fan leagues and proving that they can hang. And so I was kind of curious, like having, you know, trained with Adam and Marisol, not just how are you feeling about, you know, them, but then also you and Mike, like how are you feeling as a faction going into that tournament?
We're feeling really confident just because, you know, we have like I feel like we have 4 heavy hitters, and that may be a little biased, but I do feel like, I feel like, well, we already know Mike and I can perform, but with Adam and Marisol, Adam's going to be a beast. I'm going to say that. The dude, his basic knowledge is fantastic, and like he's actually, we haven't really given his proper due because he's been helping us study for this entire tournament. He's always been in our study sessions. He was always in our study session with Laura, training for the Star Wars tournament. He's always been prepping with us. So Adam, props to you. Having just started with him for the singles run, just seeing how good his knowledge base is, he's gonna do some damage, and he's gonna be a threat to literally anybody he steps up. Same with Marisol. She didn't have a lot of experience in the fan league, so she's really getting thrown in the thick of it now. And her basic knowledge is also fantastic. She knows a ton, and it's just a matter of getting her like mentally game ready is going to be the thing. And once we do that, she's also going to be a beast.
Yeah, before we carry on with any kind of singles tournament, before I forget, actually, I just want to pick up on the team situation. Obviously, you've got a massive teams match coming up against the Founding Fathers. The fourth match, right?
Fourth match.
Yeah, I lose count. There's too many. So obviously, it's big pressure. How are you feeling going into that? Also, have you actually practiced the team situation yet in terms of playing?
No, and this is gonna be quick. I still have no idea how the team's format is going to work. Nobody does. But yeah, no, I feel motivated in a way I haven't felt in the Schmoedown ever. And yeah, that was something I wanted to do this season. I wanted to get the team's belt back, and I feel like we are like 1 degree away. I know that Dan and Rocha played greats in Orlando, but this ain't Orlando. You know, we had your number twice. We'll have your number for a third time, and we will do it by taking our team's belt back.
Exactly.
I love that energy. Like you guys right now, and this goes back to what John was saying earlier. You guys are in full swing. You guys are fully seasoned right now. You guys, I mean, I know this show comes out on the Outlaw Nation, but like Rocha's been hosting shows. You know, you guys are training, like relentlessly training, and that has to be like terrifying to think about to watch you guys play every week. You guys have to be in their heads because you're in everybody's heads because you're on the screen every week. It seems like, and you just keep performing. And I think you guys are in the best position without the belts that you've ever been in terms of studying, in terms of being ready for this. I think you guys are more ready than you've ever been.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's the thing we've been harping on since the beginning of the season. Like we wanted those belts back. We absolutely know we can be founding fathers. We've done it twice already, and we feel like I know people are exhausted seeing us go toe to toe, but this is what happens when you have the two best teams in the league.
The history repeats itself. This is what we had in the earliest days of the Schmoedown. This is the Schmoes and the Patriots. I mean,
top 10 the Patriots.
It's top 10, then the Patriots. Just that whole rivalry.
Patriots and above the line too.
Yeah, it ebbs and flows. Now it's KO and Founding Fathers.
When you have two heavy hitting teams, like it's not a shock that they're going to go head to head multiple times, and it's cool to be the first team to go to the first two teams to play each other 4 times. I mean that's nice, but yeah, I mean, look, if you think you're gonna walk all over us or beat us or beat us like it in Orlando, you're mistaken, because we're not gonna let that happen. Like we want those belts back, and we're gonna take them by any means necessary.
Well said, Champ. Well said. Just wanted kind of final thoughts on the singles tournament. Is there any other matches you're kind of particularly interested in, or anything that you got your eye on?
Like as far as like playing?
Obviously yourself, but I was talking about anyone else in just generally.
Oh,
but yeah. About you as well. Yeah, of course. Yeah, your match against Del Rio, is it?
I mean, Del Rio, nice change of pace from my last two first round matches. And that's considered a real slouch. You look at my last 2 first rounds. I had Ethan Irwin, my first ever singles match, and then Bibiani last year, which I played. I played really well in.
Yeah.
Of course.
Last question, right?
Perfect game, and I had a perfect game until I didn't. But yeah, like there is no slouch, but I know I'm better than him. And I know I can. I know I can take. I know I have what it takes to beat him, and I will beat him because I refuse to go 1 round out a 3rd time in the Schmoedown singles tournament. That's something that I refuse to let happen 3 times in a row.
And you talk about Christian. You talk about Christian loving his rivalries. I mean, we mentioned the Beast, and he's in your quadrant. I mean, you gotta be eyeing that, right?
Oh yeah, I would love another shot at Bibiani. I honestly would.
That's a hell of a carrot. That's a hell of a carrot to put in front of you for those first couple matches, and I can only imagine that the shape you'll be in if that comes around, man. That's that's pay-per-view worthy right there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I hate to be accused of bias. I'm definitely, interested to see how the Korruption versus Founding Fathers match goes. Obviously, this is a show on the Outlaw Nation. I got a lot of faith in John Rocha, so I don't know how the match will gonna go. But I will say, Chance, I really do fully believe you can beat Bibiani. That is one where I'm like, even though that is much like you guys going up against the Founding Fathers, some of the all-time greats going at it, and I think that one will be more of a coin flip. I feel like you're one of those players where once you take a loss, especially a loss like that, where it's similar to what we were talking about with Mike and Rachel, where it's a perfect game and you still wind up the loser. I feel like I have the faith in you to be able to take Bibiani for sure.
I mean, I promise I'm not going to miss another National Treasure question. I can promise you that.
It's like we were saying, man, any question, those are the kinds of questions where it's like the second you get one of those wrong, it's just like, nope, that's in my brain forever.
Yeah, I'm like that guy. It's always a mission for me. Like if I ever miss a question on a movie, it's my mission to never miss a question on that movie ever again.
Like, am I the only one that feels bad that Robert is like watching The Mask on repeat upside down in the dungeon all week? I feel like Kaiser's and Back to the Future, right? He's got them all upside down, eyes are open. It's like the scene in Lost where they find the room where they've all been brainwashed. And it's just Robert sitting there watching The Mask.
Watching The Mask.
Yeah. Well, I feel worse for Ben Goddard because it's that exact same situation, but just bird calls. Not even a movie. Just sounds of birds. Poor guy.
Every time I hear it, yeah, someone doing it, like, oh my god, like, how can you do that when he's playing? Like, give the guy a chance, you know. He's been playing against Parker, and then you're doing that as well. Chance, I just wanted to ask, you know, obviously the way Mike's playing, the way you're playing, you could potentially play each other in this final. Have you guys spoke kind of about, you know, that's a obviously realistic scenario, what's going to go down? Obviously, you know each other's strengths and weaknesses. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, there's no word. There's nothing to hide from Mike. I mean, we would love to play each other in the finals, and it's not going to be like exchange Atlanta situation.
Yeah.
It's not. We're not going to break up the faction over it, even though they're not broken up. But come on.
Yeah, we know.
But yeah, no, it's a thing where if we both get into the final, that's where the fun time begins.
Yeah, true.
Win-win. Like we already got the title shot for the faction. It's the matter who's gonna be our gladiator in that case.
I love that that's the momentum that this season's been able to bring. And I love that is so selfless of you to have that mentality for you guys and correct me if I'm wrong, you are no longer playing for Chance. Like you are playing for Korruption. Korruption is 1 and Chance's success is 2. And that is the mentality in this new league that I think more factions need to start getting on board with, that this is a team sport now and you got to start playing like it. But on a fun side of the argument, do you know if it was if he spun opponent's choice, what slice you'd give him?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you do? Okay.
And on the flip side, he knows what to give me if I get opponent's choice.
I love that. That's what you want. You want, like, my roommate and I in college, we would play FIFA for 5 games straight without somebody scoring a goal with extra time, just because we knew each other so well. And that's how I feel like you two would be. Like we could be 10 questions deep into, overtime. But it's a 5-rounder anyways. But that would just be insane.
Let me ask you another one. Sorry, Chance, about Mike. So obviously, with the whole situation where he didn't take the number 1 contender match, we know why. It is out there. Obviously, he wants points for his faction, right? But I want to know, would you do that in that situation? I know obviously it's case by case scenario, the opportunity, the momentum that you've got. I don't know. I just want to know your thoughts. What would you have done, basically?
Gone for the singles belt, you mean?
Yeah.
Me, honestly, I probably would have taken it. Just because I feel like I felt like I could be a guy. I felt like I could be a babe man. I felt like I could take it all the way to the top and take that belt. Not saying Mike felt like he couldn't do that, because he absolutely could, but he prioritized points, and that's good for him. That's a good mentality to have. But I do feel like it's always just a thing for me, because like the singles belt is the thing I want that more than anything. Yeah. And if I could get a situation where I'm like 3 matches away from it, I'm gonna take it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let everyone else worry about the points, right? You go for the belt, kind of thing.
Yeah, and if it was anything else, like if it was IG, if I was in a position, I'd say no. But because it's the singles belts, and that's just a thing I've been chasing with the guy in the league, I would have taken it.
Yeah, and you have that extra. Oh, sorry, go ahead, John.
Oh no, I mean I was gonna slightly change gears a little bit. So Bogz, if you want to quickly chime in on that.
I was just gonna say in singles, he obviously Chance has got that extra. Just all-round experience, and I understand in a geekdom you go through a tournament, and that's why I'm not holding it against Mike, because obviously he's been there, done that. Obviously 3-belt champion, nearly obviously literally 3 belts last year. Obviously a couple of wins away, so he knows what he's doing. So people that are giving him stick, on the surface you can see why he didn't take the shortcut, but the guy knows what he's doing. That he's been there, done it, etc. So I just wanted to get that out there.
He also had like a really good positioning if he didn't take that match.
Yeah,
it's either don't take the match with guy and get into the tournament and get like a really good position where you can make a run, or take the match with guy and risk potentially not being in the tournament.
True. Well, potentially easy wins potentially. So
yeah.
And I think he's in the hardest quadrant of the whole bracket. That
is not easy.
If you're a soccer fan, football fan, this is the group of death. This is the group of death. To walk into 1, 2, 3, 4 former champions. What are we talking about here? Yeah, I mean, Paul Yama, Jeff Snyder, Mark Riley, and like that's a tournament, and KO. Like that's a tournament in itself. Like, oh my gosh.
Man.
As we've seen, sorry, John, one last thing. As we've seen in this tournament and the Inner Geekdom tournament, that it doesn't always go like that. I said this about Star Wars, I said this about Inner Geekdom. I said this last week, Chance, before you played, that there's always upsets in tournaments. You can't kind of back the favorites going in. That's what literally the points of tournaments are for. So yeah, I just wanted to say that. Sorry, go ahead, John.
No, absolutely. And I mean, certainly based on what we've been talking about, it sounds like the person maybe to watch as far as upsets go might be Adam Collins. I mean, if he's been helping you guys study for that many divisions, like that's a spooky sounding guy. But one of the things I also wanted to talk about a little bit, obviously we've kind of talked about the individuals of Korruption. As much as, Mike kind of poked fun at the folks who do things like what I'm about to do, I do want to talk a little bit about the faction standings. Because obviously, this was a specifically Korruption versus Dungeon heavy week. So that was kind of the focus as far as faction wise. But if you look at the points, Korruption is now in the number 3 slot of factions. They are now above the Rockstars. They are now above the Droogs. And they are now above the Den. That's pretty big in all of itself. Poor Ben Goddard. But also, like, it's important to look at this because as well, looking at now the spot that you guys are in with 4 people who are pretty dangerous going into the singles tournament. The fact that you and Mike are getting your team's title shot. Like, again, we talk a lot about momentum, but this is a huge moment for you guys. Particularly because, again, Bogz, like you were saying, looking at who folks have played. If I'm looking at, the semifinals match of Chance versus the Barbarian, like, again, no bias, obviously Chance is here with us, but if you look at who they played, how do you not give that match to Chance? Like Barbarian's a good guy, but he faced, an off his game John Humphrey and a rusty Adam Hlavik. Meanwhile, Chance has just faced the person favored to win the whole ding-dong tournament. So, like, it is kind of hard to look at that. And then, again, you look at, Mike is facing, former champ Paul Oyama, hypothetically, Snyder, Mark Riley. I personally would love to see Kalinowski versus Oyama because, obviously, Chance, you and Oyama have gone back and forth now, 1-1, and that has been great to watch. Like, your singles match against Oyama is one of my favorite matches in the Schmoedown generally. I want to give you credit for that, man. Like, that was a great match. This was a huge week for Korruption, and this is potentially the thing that's going to set you guys up as number 1, which is huge because there was that moment for a little bit where you're kind of like in the kind of weeds a little bit with factions like the Droogs and the Rockstars and the Suspects.
Yeah, we were not doing well in the beginning of the season.
Yeah, but you guys have really turned it around, man. I just got to give you props again for that mindset of like the faction over the person. Like, I feel like you guys have been doing really well. Is that something you've thought that much about as far as the actual standings, or just focusing on just the family mentality maybe a little bit more?
I mean, a little bit of both because I love being a part of the faction, but at the same time, yeah, we were not doing well, and it sucks because I know how much Shannon wants to succeed. So like that was another motivation for me going in the tournament. Like as I wanted to get points, we need the points. We needed to get some wins on the board. So what do you do? You call on your heavy hitters, and you call on your heavy hitters. Hopefully, they'll put the points, and the 3 of us have.
Absolutely, man. And
I'm looking here, guys. This bracket's set up for you guys to just run away with points.
Yeah.
And I don't. The building of the brackets are hard, but Swag is not in the best position to maximize points. They have 2 players in the same quadrant, and I think that's one of the only times it happens in the entire tournament where you have Frank Moran and Liz Shannon Miller in the same quadrant.
They're in my bracket, aren't they?
Yeah, they're both in your bracket. So that's big opportunities for you guys in terms of points to even move up into second in the early weeks of the tournament, just in terms of I know we can go back to March Madness, but if you do March Madness, you have the most possible points depending on your bracket with how many teams you have left in the bracket. And you guys would just sweep the points with how many more opportunities you would have to play. And it's setting up for the end of the year between Korruption and the Exchange. It is going to be an arms race at the end of this year, and I think it's going to be tighter than a lot of people think.
No doubt. Yeah, I was just going to say that obviously I think you and Mike went early on the season, then Laura Kelly got a win, and then there was a kind of lull there where, yeah, you did fall kind of towards the bottom. But we all knew, I mean, you can look at our kind of previous shows, we all knew you guys were coming. Yeah, we knew tournaments were coming, we knew your team match was coming. So yeah, like obviously the Den, Swag, Stock Exchange, they've got to watch out because you got some, like in 3 divisions, you guys are coming. So yeah, like they can't sit and rest because you guys are too dangerous.
And it's rough too because, as much as, you're now putting yourself up in a great position to kind of duke it out with Swag, with the Thin Stock Exchange, it does kind of feel like by the end of this week, you guys just kind of took the dungeon out to the back of the barn and just kind of put one in its brain because, as much as I think Kaiser is a great personality, he is right. They were a pretty IG heavy faction.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
To get beat as quickly as they did in Star Wars, and now to have Robert Parker lose in the quarterfinals of this IG bracket. I don't know if they're like, I feel like it's now kind of Dungeon and Usual Suspects kind of struggling for last place a little bit. I don't know, Chance. What do you think of that? Knowing also the folks in the game from those factions.
I mean, yeah, it's you had to take. I felt like Old Yeller. We felt like Old Yeller this week. Having to take Kaiser out on the beach from his Corvette Stinger. He just pulled up and take a crossbow and shoot him in the heart.
Left him for dead.
left it there. But yeah, I mean, Levine and Kaiser, they're struggling. I think they're like bottom 2, right?
Mm. And well, for the Dungeon, obviously, you draft Smets first as a champion, but he's not played.
Well, of course,
played,
that's the thing. He's only going to get 2 matches this year.
Yeah, exactly.
He's
not
going to get
teams, not
Chandru and whoever wins this tournament.
Exactly. That's if he beats Chandru. So
that is if he beats. If you lose to Chandru, like you're 1 and 2, like hardly played this year.
Exactly. Who do you think is going to win that match? By the way,
I have Smets.
Okay.
Just because I know Chandru wants to win, but I think Smets legitimately wants to murder Chandru on camera.
I'm picturing like Smets and Chandru with that scene where it's like Smets is Bane breaking Chandru Batman just like over his knee.
Exactly.
That's not too far off.
Well, it's interesting to talk about that too, because I remember there's a poll in the Schmoedown Facebook group about Mike specifically choosing to kind of enter into the singles tournament. And there was this kind of debate of like, what's more important, being able to get the most points for your faction and end with like the #1 faction spot, or to have someone with the belt, because there is that argument of like Mike could have beaten Guy, he could have beaten Bateman, he could have beaten whoever it was that had the belt hypothetically, but he chose instead to focus on the faction a little bit more. So it is interesting, again, just going back to that conversation of what's more important, the individual having that belt or just the faction. But I know obviously, Chance, you're someone who really wants the faction to succeed, someone who's really focusing, and also someone who's very hungry for that singles belt, man. So right. I'm really interested to see what you wind up doing in that singles tournament, man, because
for sure. Yeah, I don't intend on starting my run now. So
nice. Yeah. So yeah, whilst we we're going to start wrapping up the show now, just thoughts onto next week's matches. Obviously we've got 2 big semi-finals, yourself against the Barbarian and Alex Damon against Colin Larson. Me personally, I said it last week's episode that I personally think it's going to be all Korruption final. Obviously we don't need to spoil nothing, champ.
But, I wasn't going to, so.
Okay, cool. You can give us a little teaser if you want, but not too much.
I mean, me versus Barbarians, it's an interesting matchup. I'll say that.
Okay. Nice. I can't wait. We're backing you all the way, man. We did. And as well, sorry, I completely forgot. Like, in terms of the first person, the first competitor, the first player to actually reach out to the show was you. Like, you've kind of, obviously, you tweeted us, obviously, you made a few comments and stuff. So, absolutely, thank you for that.
Oh, yeah.
You're doing a complete off getting back. So.
I'm a fan.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, so what was it like about the show that just got you interested?
I mean, I always like to check out various after shows, especially after I win. I like to see people talk about me. And I'm like, oh, what's the Ultimate Schmoedown Show? I'm like, oh yeah, these guys are cool. They clearly love the show. Yeah, I'll throw you guys a bone for sure.
Thank you,
I
man.
love, that we're ending the show on like, what do you like about us? Who's the cutest member of the podcast, do you think?
Definitely not.
Thank you. Good taste, man. Good taste. No, thank you so much about that, Chance. Yeah, it made our day when you kind of, tweeted us and talking about the show and stuff. So yeah, it's a big respect for you. Colin, thoughts on next week's matches?
I'm not making this mistake again.
Mm-hmm.
Even though my pitches for the last 2 weeks have been that Alex David is positioning himself to be triple belted in Star Wars, IG, and something else. I don't know if he's a better teams player or singles player, but I think Mike's gonna shut me down this week. Mike, the way that Mike is playing right now is, it's Patrick Mahomes, and it's like I'm not gonna bet against him. And Lamar Jackson's going to be the godfather of my children. So, I'm not going to ever bet against Patrick Mahomes. And now I'm never going to bet against Kalinowski and IG ever again. And unless I don't even think it's fair to bet that game between you and Mike if it happens. If it happens, because it's just, it's so hard to choose because you two are almost inseparable to me. I now know you two it's KO and Chance. And I feel like you two are just a hive mind, so I can only imagine what the match would be like. But this week, I'm excited to see what the Barbarian can bring in the biggest match of his career. Every match he plays from now on out is the biggest match of his career, and the stakes keep getting bigger. And like you said, Chance, you're seasoned, man. So I'm just excited to see what it's like for somebody coming up to face somebody that's seasoned. And same thing goes for Alex Damon, because going up against KO, I don't wish that upon anybody right now. No one.
No. God, no.
John, thoughts on next week's matches?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Chance is going to take Barbarian. Like I was saying, it's just that difference of, who they played to get to this position. And I think Chance has had the harder road, and he's made the most of it. So I would give that to Chance. Honestly, man, I got a coin right here. I'm going to say heads is Mike. Tails is Damon. That's who I would put money on. It's Tails. So I guess I'm gonna say Alex Damon. But truly, this is one of those things where I'm like, I think that's ultimately what it's gonna come down to between those two. I don't know about Damon being a triple threat just yet. I wouldn't go that far just because we haven't seen him in either teams or singles except for the Patreon match between the 4 champs. Where he was, I think, one of the first 4 out of that. So that's part of why I'm like, that's a little too far, Maybe if Roxy paired him with Stacy or David for the teams, I think that could be an interesting, and we could see what happens there. But it's too early to call that. But he's been playing pretty dang well in Inner Geekdom, and obviously no shade to Mike. The man's multiple belted, but so is Alex as well. So that's part of why I'm just like, we got 2 belt holders here. So that's going to be a great match. One thing I'll also say is, those 2 matches are going to be good, but we should also very briefly talk about 2 matches that have been announced for the upcoming future. Bateman versus Guy number 2 happening as the undercard to Chris Jericho versus Kevin Smith. I'm just going to say it right now. I think it's going to go Jericho. I think Chris Jericho is going to win that one. And then, as much as I love Guy, he's too in the weeds of the Schmoedown, which of course does not exist. It's not a real thing. It's not real, and I'm not a part of it. And I think Bateman is probably going to win that match. I think he's got the skills.
Yeah, I do too. In terms of Bateman, I think he's currently right now he's a bit level above Guy. That's a bit harsh to say, but currently right now, in terms of Jericho and Smith. What if Kevin Smith spins Kevin Smith? Can he pick his own wheel slice? I don't know.
I don't think we would tell him no. Honestly,
if he wants to say, "I want my wheel," I want my movies. That's a bit weird. Yeah. So, and I wonder if because obviously Silvestrini, she spun quite a strong Kevin Smith round. Would he get the same answers? It's weird. I don't know how it's going to go down.
If he whiffed the Kevin Smith question, I'd be shocked. And if we allow Star Wars Beyond the Wheel for Whitworth versus Prince Jr., I don't see why I wouldn't let that slide. True.
What are your thoughts, Colin, about that?
Man, I'm the biggest Kevin Smith fan. It made me so happy, and there's something about Coy's vibes and Kevin's vibes that are just so like pure. They're so, they just bring positivity. And we mentioned earlier, like that him and Mark's show, Fat Man Beyond, is just like, it's like some good news for nerds for 2 hours. There's never like any negative talk. And if it is, it's usually mourning somebody. And even then it's positivity. But that ray that like Kevin can bring to the Schmoedown, him and Coy paired together, it's just going to be so great. I can't wait for the week of promos. Yeah. It's going to be so fantastic. And then to have Jericho, a professional who I saw in person when I was a kid, when he came through, like just to see him in the Schmoedown is insane. And he can hang. Like no one, like that's the thing I think is going to surprise a lot of people who there's probably some Schmoedown fans where the wrestling overlap, it just doesn't happen. There aren't, they just never hit them. And they're going to be surprised how this guy hangs with Kevin Smith, who, is a director, makes movies and loves all this stuff. So I think Jericho probably has the edge, only mainly because I think the competition has a lot. Competition and Chance, like you said, man, you said you played varsity football. I think that's huge, man. Then you're used to people yelling at your ear, all the time in the middle of a game. A sound studio ain't nothing to you. I can tell now. I can say sound studio is nothing to you. The people like, and no offense to the people who are usually sitting in the audience, they're probably not like avid sports fans. Like they're not like rabid fanatics or hooligans for football in
the
Europe.
Geeks, right?
Right, they're geeks, right? So it's a different vibe, and you can go in there, you can hang with that. They're not intimidating to you. You face Texas football fans. Are you kidding me? They're like that is terrifying. I've seen every episode of Friday Night Lights like 5 times. I don't want to mess with any of those people ever.
I played Friday Night Lights.
Oh, right. The whole idea of it. So you played the biggest game of the week.
And the stadium, like Permian, where the movie took place. Like I played in that stadium.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, clear
I'm
eyes,
a big fan
heart.
of a Texas football-based comic book. Does that count for anything?
Sure.
Chance, what are your thoughts on Jericho and Smith and Guy and Bateman?
Actually, lean slightly towards Smith on the Jericho Smith match. I think that Kevin is just such an avid fan. I think his recall might hurt him, but in fact Jericho will have him in theatrics, but I think Kevin Smith will beat him in knowledge. Yeah, that's it.
Kevin, hey, that's the PED that Kevin might need to not dabble in the day of his match.
Maybe. For Bateman, I'm most taking Bateman because like the last time they faced off, it didn't go very well for Guy.
True.
Either physically or gameplay wise.
True.
And I just feel like Bateman's in a place where he wants to get that belt back more than anything. He put the belt above his faction, which okay, cool, good on you, but you better win the belt if that's the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, no doubt. So just want to plug obviously the show. Find us on Facebook, on Twitter at TUSS Pod. Also, you can watch us on Facebook, on Spotify as well. You can follow me at Bogz on Twitter or at ABBogz on Instagram. John, anything you want to plug?
You can follow me at John Barr Tweets on Twitter and Instagram. And read the comic Southern Bastards. It's a comic book about Texas football written by Jason Aaron. Really good writer. Check it out. Yeah. I knew that name would get you, Colin. It's a good book, man. That I have nothing to do with, but that's my plug anyway, Bogz.
No worries. Colin?
Well, now I got to go buy that because Jason Aaron's Thor run is one of my favorite works of comics ever. So now he's doing Texas football. Okay, all right. Sorry, guys. You can find me wherever Collins are sold at @the_C Morris, and I'm here everywhere. Hit me up. Let's talk some Schmoedown, guys, because it's a crazy week. It's a crazy week.
Yep, big week coming, Chance. Some big matches. We're backing you all the way, man.
Thank you.
Anything you want to plug? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChanceWars_91, and check out my podcast, Notorious by Chance. We review movies all the time. Next week, this week, I should say, we'll be reviewing the Super Mario Brothers movie, which is going to be interesting. So there's that. You can find us on Facebook. We have a group. We have a page. everywhere. And yeah, that's about it. Watch the matches, join the Schmoedown, join the Patreon. If you're a patron supporter, you'll get if you're $10, you get the Barbarian match today. Everyone else gets tomorrow, and yeah, that's it.
Well,
and thank you so much for being on the show, man. This was incredible.
We appreciate it.
We owe you one. And anytime you want to come on the show, let us know. Whatever, we'll chuck you on. No problem. Anytime you want to talk Schmoedown, with or without you playing, or whatever the issue is, just let us know. You're more than welcome on the show, man. Anytime.
Sure. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for having me.
No problem, man. So, this has been episode 6 of the Ultimate Schmoedown Show. Pleasure. Please like, share, comment on the show, and we'll see you next week for another big breakdown of everything Schmoedown.